Hi, everyone. I'm Carly.
And I'm Sophia.
And this is Away She Goes, a podcast from Her Adventures.
Each episode will help you feed your wanderlust with travel tips, stories, inspiration, and more. Away she goes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Away She Goes. It's just Carly today. Sophia couldn't join me, but I am joined by a very special guest, another fellow member of Team Her Adventures, Katie Beth. Hey, Katie Beth.
Hey, Carly. How are you doing?
Good. So Katie Beth and I today are going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people ask questions about in our Facebook group, and even sometimes are afraid to ask questions about. I think that this topic is really overwhelming for a lot of people. So I'm glad that we're talking about it today. We're going to talk about solo travel and how to navigate that. So before we get started, Katie Beth, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do for Team Her Adventures?
Yeah. My name is Katie Beth, and I live in Kentucky. I have been solo traveling for the better part of 15 years now. I've been on the team over at Her Adventures for 6 years, and I have had a bunch of different jobs there. Right now, I am the editor of our newsletter, The Navigator, which you should definitely subscribe to if you don't already.
We'll have a link in the description of the episode if you want to do that.
Thanks.
Do you have a favorite solo travel experience? I know it's probably hard to pick one.
Oh my gosh. I fell in love with the idea of walking the Camino de Santiago a couple years ago after we read a book about it in the Her Adventures book club. And so back in 2019, I went to Spain by myself and did 550 miles hiking across the country on the Camino de Santiago, staying in basically hostels, but not as nice, and eating really good food and meeting incredible people and just spending time getting to know who I am. And it was one of the most awakening experiences of my life. I highly recommend it to anyone who's thought about it.
That sounds amazing. Spain was the first of my COVID trips that did not happen. So,
oh no.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Barcelona March of 2020.
Yep.
Didn't happen. If I'd gone in February, it would have been fine, but that's how it is.
Yeah.
So for anybody who's looking on more information to travel solo, Katie Beth actually authored a solo travel workbook that we are releasing with Her Adventures. So we will have more information about that at the end of the episode, and we will have a link for that in the description as well. So Katie Beth, what do you think are the main reasons that people are nervous or scared to travel alone?
I think it just has to do with the familiarity of things. When you're going to a new location, especially somewhere you haven't been before, it's kind of nice to have that like emotional support person with you. And when you solo travel, you don't have that friend or that familiar face to kind of help you through things. You are alone. You are having to do experiences that people don't typically do at home, like eating meals alone and spending all of your time with yourself. In a typical day, you have interactions with other people, but when you're going on a solo trip, you don't necessarily have that guarantee of seeing others. It's just all time with yourself. And that can be kind of scary to wrap your head around.
It's funny. I was actually talking to one of my friends the other day. I went to Puerto Rico in June to go to my friend's wedding. Two of my best friends live in Puerto Rico or from there. And I've been there before. This was my second time going. And the first time I went, I spent the whole week that I was there with them. They showed me around. We did all sorts of things. But this time when I went, I was only there for a few days, but I was mostly going solo. I obviously went to their wedding. I saw them a couple of times outside of their wedding, but that was their wedding weekend. I was not staying with them. I was not with them the entire time. So I was going to the beach by myself. I was out to meals by myself. I was taking a walk, but all of these things. And it helped that I had been there before. And I think I know how to speak Spanish until I get to a Spanish speaking country. And then I realize I don't know shit.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, I'm so good. And then someone says something to me and I'm like, what? What'd you say? But even that, I was talking to one of my friends and I just mentioned in passing, like, oh yeah, when I was there, I went out to restaurants by myself, and my friend just couldn't. She's like, you went out to restaurants by yourself? And I was like, yeah. She's like, I could never do that. And I was like, oh, See, to me, it's no big deal, but to other people, the thought of that is daunting.
That's the one that every time I talk about my solo travel experiences back home, my friends are like, what do you mean you ate by yourself? What did you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I ate food and I read a book. Like,
yeah,
I had a pleasant experience. I go out to eat by myself at home now. Like, it's just kind of changing that switch in your brain of, yeah, you can do this versus this is scary, you know?
And that's, I think, a big step that people can take. Anybody listening who's nervous about, oh my God, I'm going to fly somewhere new and eat at a restaurant by myself. Try it at home first. Try it somewhere where you're more comfortable to get used to it. Take walks by yourself. Get used to being by yourself in an environment that you're familiar with first. And then that makes it so much easier. It still isn't easy per se the first few times you do it, but it makes it easier when you go to a new place then to not feel as nervous or as awkward or as apprehensive. And it's okay to feel awkward. You know, it's okay to never maybe feel fully confident. Like I'm to a point now where I was at a restaurant and they're like, oh, are you waiting on somebody? And I was like, no. And that kind of comment just doesn't even faze me anymore.
Right.
But it's okay if it does. It's okay to feel a little awkward. It's okay to still be nervous. You know, don't feel like just because you're not completely relaxed that you're a failure at traveling solo.
Oh, yeah. And if you do find that you're feeling awkward or you're craving like a more social eating experience, sit at the bar, you know, sit at the bar, even when you're in an unfamiliar place or a place where people don't speak your language, people at the bar tend to be friendly. So you can at least have that like eye contact and smiles and politeness, you know?
And I think one other reason that I definitely want to touch on, and we will touch on this later in the episode, a lot of people are nervous to go alone because they feel unsafe or they're worried about being unsafe. So my recommendation for this is, other than practicing at home, practicing where you're comfortable, is for your first solo trip, go somewhere that is known for being safe. Go to Scandinavia, go to Singapore. Go to, I was supposed to go to Iceland solo, and then I had a friend end up joining me, but I was going to go solo. When I booked the flight, in my head, I was like, I'm going by myself, and I was totally okay with it.
Oh yeah. Doing that pre-trip research on safety is incredibly key, and we're going to get there for sure.
Absolutely. So now you've decided to travel alone somewhere. You've decided to solo travel. So Katie Beth and I are going to kind of walk you through the process. So first and foremost, we kind of just touched on this, picking a destination. What are your tips for how to pick a good destination?
I mean, this is the fun part. Personally, I love planning trips just about as much as I like going on trips.
Me too.
That's like weird, but I love it. Like,
no, I do too. I get it.
Just full of it. Picking a destination is obviously the first step of any trip, and it can be quite a hurdle because we have this whole big, beautiful world full of places. How the heck are you going to pick just one? The first thing that I always do is I think about my budget. You know, how much money do I want to spend on this trip? Which is huge. That's a big constraint for people, and it can determine where you're able to go. Maybe your budget is smaller and you have to stay domestic, or maybe your budget is a little bit larger and you can do those international trips. Neither one is better than the other. There are awesome things to do both. It's just going to depend on how much money you have going on. And that is definitely the first step you need to take, is figuring out your budget. I know that we have some resources with Her Adventures. Do you want to talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah.
I think you know more than I do.
Yeah. So we, a while ago, but Sophia and I recorded an episode with Ashaki where we talked all about budget. So if you're curious about that episode, just scroll back through previous episodes to listen to that one or re-listen to it. It was really helpful. She offered a ton of really great tips on that. In addition, we also have a budget workbook as well. So we have a whole series of workbooks that, people are learning about these past few weeks. So we also have a workbook dedicated entirely to budgeting that was written by our lovely co-host Sophia. So check that out as well. We will have the link to that in the description. And again, Ashaki's budget episode is just further back. So I would recommend starting there.
Oh yeah, those are great places to start. I got to look at the budget workbook and it is 10 out of 10. So major snaps to Sophia for putting that
Good job,
together.
Sophia. Don't edit this out, Sophia, because I know you will. Don't do it.
Right?
Keep it in.
Let us love you. So once you've gotten your budget figured out, once you know how much you're spending, it's time to start figuring out how much time you're going to be able to take. We're adults. We have jobs. You can't just take an infinite amount of time off your job, unfortunately, unless you're one of those that is blessed, that is 100% remote and 100% flexible all of the time. You have to really consider the amount of time you're going to be able to take off from your job. You're also going to have to take in how long it's going to take you to get to your destination. You're going to want to be able to make the most of those days that you take off. And sometimes, especially if you can only take off 4 or 5 days, you might not want to take a trip that's going to take you 16 hours to get to your destination. You might want to maybe max it out at about 6 to 10 hours. That way, yeah, you're still losing larger chunks of time traveling, but you're not losing well over a day both ways. Also, jet lag sucks. You got to remember jet lag. There is some sort of like medication and stuff you can take to help with jet lag. I know that we've recommended it on the Her Adventures website before. They're these like magnesium tablets that you can take that can help prevent jet lag. But jet lag still sucks, and you don't want to spend your whole vacation tired. You want to be able to enjoy that time. So when you're thinking about the timing of your trip, I always think of how many days I want to spend in my destination. And then I start figuring out travel time based on that. Maybe
working backwards.
Yep. Maybe I can book my first flight on a Friday night and add a couple extra days to my trip, or put a weekend on the end of the trip. That way I don't have to take as many days off of work, but I can still travel those longer destinations if I want to. So definitely play around with timing. If you are looking at flights and scheduling and all of that kind of stuff, one thing that I use to really help me with timing is the app Momondo. It shows you all of the flights. It helps you find the cheapest flights. And it has this awesome Take Me Anywhere feature where you can just put in your days and it tells you where the cheapest flights all around the world are. I have literally picked destinations based off of their Take Me Anywhere feature more often than not.
What is this called? This is like my dream app. What is this?
Right? It's called Momondo. Momondo.
I need it. That's dangerous for me. I'll just book shit. It's not good. All right.
Let me tell you, the first time I went to Spain, my friend and I, who we met in the bathroom at a Super Bowl party, we were drunk. We got on this app. We booked a flight to Spain that night based on the Take Me Anywhere feature. And it was like $300 round trip.
See, that's the kind of thing I need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I do that too. I pick destinations based on, cheap flight. Cool. Let's go.
Yeah.
See you there.
Like,
yep.
I want to go anywhere. Might as well make it work with my budget.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, picking your destination, the timing is going to be of utmost importance. Another big thing is the language. We are not, at least most humans that I know, cannot speak every language on this planet. I don't know if there are any people who can do that. But sometimes, having that language barrier can be something intimidating for people. So if you're going to go somewhere and you want to be able to understand what's being said, maybe go somewhere that speaks a language that you speak, or speaks a language similar to a language you speak. Like if you speak Spanish, French is really similar. Maybe you'll be able to finagle that a little bit better than if you go to like Scandinavia, Also, language barriers are becoming easier and easier and easier to overcome with apps like Google Translate that you can speak into in real time, and they will spit back out what you said in the native language where you're at. Do be careful with this though, because Google does use AI, and AI does not always interpret things the same way. Like, I'm from the South. We use a lot of idioms in our daily speak. No way in hell do those translate correctly. Google likes to translate things literally.
Yeah.
Like literally. So if I'm, seeing an old friend and I'm like, oh, hey, I ain't seen you in Coon's age. No way in hell does Google know what that means. Most people outside of where I live don't know what that means.
I don't, but it's funny.
Yeah.
I'm not even that far from you and I don't know what it means.
Like long time no see, but it's what we say around here, So keep in mind those language barriers. If you are using an app like Google Translate, be prepared to speak very literally. If you need to know where the bathroom is, say, where is the bathroom? And nothing else. Don't say, I need to go to the bathroom, because they're probably going to look at you like, why are you telling me
Right,
this?
so go.
Be very literal in your questions, be very literal in what you're saying with those apps. And then just don't assume. Please don't be that jerk. Don't be that jerk who goes to somewhere else and just automatically assumes that everyone at that destination speaks your language. Even if, and Americans, I'm American, we're the worst about this.
Mm-hmm.
We are the worst about this. I cannot tell you how many times I have been abroad in a hostel and I have seen Americans getting verbally aggressive with staff because staff do not speak English. Do not do that.
Please. I was in Montreal, the far off exotic land of Montreal, Canada.
Oh yeah.
Where everybody there speaks French and English. Mm-hmm. Basically fluently. And I don't speak French. I can speak Spanish. I cannot speak like 2 words of French at all. Mm-hmm. So anywhere I went, I noticed that they would greet you both in French and English, and however you responded was how they would continue to speak with you. So I would just respond in English and they would talk to me in English, and that's fine. I went to one place where there was like a little cafe and the waiter only greeted me in French. And I said, I'm really sorry, I don't speak French. Do you speak English? He goes, oh yeah, of course. And then he looks at me and he's like, you're an American. And I thought, oh, here it comes. And I was like, mm-hmm. And he said, you are the only one who has ever asked me if I speak English instead of assuming that I speak English. So thank you. And he was just flabbergasted. And I was like, yeah. I'm sorry. Like, I don't know. Like, but please, just to emphasize, please don't, no matter where you're from, don't assume those things. Don't assume.
And thankfully, there are also programs that are free that you can use, like Duolingo, to learn at least the basics of the language of wherever you choose to go. At least learn how to say, hello, do you speak whatever language? And if they don't, be prepared to use your backup plan like Google Translate, So once you figured out, the language side of things, the budget side of things, the timing side of things, it's the fun time. Where the heck do you want to go? Do you want to go on a tropical vacation? Do you want to go to a city? Do you want to go to the countryside? Do you want to go out to the woods? Do you want to go up and ski and go to winter? What do you want to do with your trip? And then it's time to start narrowing it down from there. So let's say like I have a week and I only want to spend at most 8 hours traveling there and traveling back. I want to go to a tropical destination. You can put those filters in on that handy dandy. You can put those filters in on that handy dandy Momondo app that I was talking about, and it will show you exactly what your options are. Which I love to do. Perfect. Like, why would I use anything else? Quite honestly, right. You can do it the hard way. You can get on Google Maps. You can start figuring all of that out yourself. Or you can just say, hey, I want to travel less than this many hours. Filters are great. I love technology.
Hey, Momondo, you should sponsor us.
Right?
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
Give us a free trip somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Free solo trip.
But figure out what you want to do. And then, if you really want to get fancy with it, if you do have more time available, go to the travel forums, go to like Her Adventures and post in our group, hey, I have this many days. I want to go hiking in the woods somewhere pretty with castles. Where do you guys recommend? I promise you, so many people will start chiming in. And honestly, I've had people plan trips for me on Her Adventures. Like I've just posted a simple question like, hey, I'm thinking of going on a beach trip for a week. I want to go somewhere with good surfing. Where do you guys recommend? And recently I posted something like that. And this woman chimed in with a full 5 days itinerary that she had just done with like, yes, I would recommend this, or no, I wouldn't. And I used it and it was amazing. And that was no planning on my part. And I sent her a really nice letter in the mail. I was like, thank you so much for this. Figure out what you want to do and then start researching things to do in that area for sure. So once you are picking your destination, once you have figured out where you want to go, what you want to do, the next step is doing a little bit of the harder research to find out, is it safe? Safety is paramount when you are traveling.
And just so you know, Katie Beth, I'm probably going to lump health and safety together because one, safety is really short and mainly just me plugging the safety workbook. And two, it makes sense to put them together.
Yep.
All right. So I actually, while Katie Beth was writing the solo travel workbook, I was writing the safety workbook. So I'm going to talk a little bit about safety. So just as a disclaimer, we've also done a travel safety episode, and I even said it there, like safety is such a broad topic. It is such a detailed topic. In no way in the next 5 minutes am I going to give you everything you need to know about health and safety. If you do want more information, check out our safety episode, which is further down in our episode list, and check out the safety workbook as well. But in general, some destinations, like I mentioned earlier, are known for being safer than others. Scandinavia comes to mind for me when I think international. Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Denmark, all are consistently ranked near the top for like the safest countries in the world. And then other places, obviously, I'm not going to ding any in one individual country, but I'm sure you all are thinking of some that you've heard of that have reputations for not being safe, especially more so for female travelers. So keep that in mind when not only when you're booking your destination, but when you're at your destination as well. And don't let your guard down, even in some place like Iceland, don't just say, oh, Iceland's safe, I'm fine. You probably are fine, but you don't want to act recklessly or let your guard down to the point where something does happen. Your health. So let's talk a little bit about health, which goes hand in hand. Like your health is no joke. Traveling is often very exhausting. It's often very stressful in a good way. We all enjoy travel. That's why we're here, but it's exhausting. I've come back from trips and slept for a day or two.
Oh my gosh, same.
To just like get back into like some kind of equilibrium, and traveling solo adds an added layer of stress because there's nobody else to help you plan. There's nobody else to help you doing anything. You're there by yourself. It's just you. So that makes it more tiring. And, getting sick while you're traveling, whether it's COVID or not, I know now everybody just thinks of COVID as a default, but there's other things too. There's food poisoning or a stomach bug or a regular cold or the flu.
Well, and depending on where you're going, you can also deal with things that you would never think of.
Malaria.
Like altitude sickness and malaria and seasickness if you're going to be spending a lot of time on ferries. I learned that the hard way in Greece. It was horrific.
See, I know I get seasick. I was supposed to go to Greece in June, and I was going to be on ferries. I had so many boxes of Dramamine that I was ready to bring with me. It was unbelievable.
I had never gotten seasick before in my life, but a lot of the ferries, especially the slow ferries in Europe, don't have stabilizers.
Oh, dear Jesus. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So be prepared. You never know what's going to pop up. You never know what's going to pop up with your health. So it is so important to be prepared as much as you can.
That makes me nauseous just thinking about that.
Right?
No stabilizers. Oh my God. Ugh.
Oh, I have learned the hard way now. Always put Dramamine in your bag, even if you're not going to need it. Like pack the Dramamine, pack some Tylenol or Advil, some sort of painkiller, because you can't always get your hands on it. Band-Aids, my God, always pack them. You know, a first aid kit is recommended if you can squeeze it in your bag.
And the safety workbook has a packing list for a first aid kit in case you're curious.
Oh, amazing. Wonderful.
Our teammate Valerie helped us out with that one.
Oh, love her.
Shout out to Valerie.
She is a nurse, so she definitely knows.
She knows what she's talking about. So here's a big tip, and I am going to vouch for this and tell everybody a little story. Get travel insurance. Do it. I am telling you all to do it. And I will tell you why. I booked a trip in September of 2020 to go to the Greek islands. So this was like mid-COVID. This was my we're 6 months into COVID. Screw this. I'm going to book something for 2 years from now to have something to look forward to. The Greek islands is my number one bucket list. Santorini is my number one. You all have heard me say it. I've talked about it. We all know that we all know.
As it should be.
As it should be. So I paid for the trip. The trip was very expensive because it was with a group, which makes it more expensive, but it was an expensive trip anyway. It was 2.5 weeks of Greek island hopping. And I clicked on the little box that said, yes, I would like to protect my trip for $150. Didn't, a couple of years went by. My trip is scheduled for June of 2022. The night before, literally 12 hours before I am supposed to be on a plane, one of my connecting flights is canceled. This was the weekend in mid-June where anybody who was watching the news saw the news that thousands and thousands and thousands of flights were being canceled. So when I called the airline, who I will not name because they pissed me off, when I called the airline, who shall remain nameless, United, to Sophia, don't put that in there in case they ever want to sponsor us. But anyway, I called the airline to have them rebook me because that's what they're supposed to do. Oh, we can't get you to Athens until it was 5 days from the day that I was calling. And I was like, I'm on a tour. They're not going to be in Athens in 5 days. They're going to be in Crete or Santorini in 5 days. And so I then called the tour company, who was great about pushing my tour back because they said that's not reasonable. And then you shouldn't have to drive from upstate New York to New York City to catch a flight. That's not reasonable. So they pushed me on a trip for mid-September. At the time of recording this, just so everybody knows, this won't be released until later, but it's the end of August right now. So as of now, my Greece trip is supposed to be in a couple of weeks. A few weeks ago, I was diagnosed with pneumonia.
Oh no.
Pretty severe pneumonia. I was on a bunch of medications, was having trouble breathing, couldn't even walk a couple of minutes without having a coughing fit. And I had a doctor basically tell me, listen, you'll probably be recovered by the time your trip comes around, but you should not be traveling right after you recover from pneumonia.
Oh my God, no.
So that put the kibosh on my Greece trip. Had I not had insurance, I would have lost every cent that I paid for that trip because I canceled it so soon before the trip started that the company took most of the money as a cancellation fee. So now, because of insurance, I'm filing a claim, and assuming they look at the note that the doctor wrote that said this person is not allowed to travel right now because of this, I will get my money back. Had I not checked that little box and had I not spent that $150, I would be out several $1,000s.
Oh yeah.
So
it's crazy. I always get travel insurance. It's the money now is worth saving the headache later.
It pays for itself after one catastrophe.
Oh yeah.
The money that I'm getting back from this Greece trip will pay for travel insurance for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah.
If
travel insurance isn't something that automatically is in your brain to get, a lot of travel credit cards, like cards that earn you miles when you book, instead of cash back, they earn you miles, travel credit cards.
Yep.
If you book a trip through them, travel insurance is automatically included. Like my credit card, anytime I book a flight, anytime I book a hotel, anytime I book a car rental or anything like that, I automatically have a set amount of travel insurance included. Because of who I am, I always buy extra because I want to be protected.
Mm-hmm.
But just know that sometimes you already have those perks and you don't even know them. So check your credit card policy if you are booking with a credit card, always.
Yeah. And it's always one of those things, like 8 out of 10 times you don't need it. But the one time you need it, you're going to be like, thank God I did that.
Oh my gosh. When I was doing my Camino, a friend of mine fell down a hill and broke her leg.
Oh God.
And thank God she had gotten trip insurance for both, pre-trip errors like health and things that come up, but also insurance for while she was there. And she did not have to pay a cent.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have been, I think it was like a $4,000 bill had she had to pay out of pocket. So
and that too, like my insurance helped me, but what if something had happened to me? What if I had gone to Greece, not knowing I had pneumonia, gone to Greece, and now I'm in a hospital and now I have to, my situation was something that happened before the trip, but stuff can happen on your trip too. And now you're somewhere where your health insurance on its own may not cover what you need. And that's where the travel insurance steps in.
If you are for some reason hospitalized, when I was in Greece, I had to go to a hospital because of a incident when I was scuba diving. And I did not speak good enough Greek. I spoke enough, but when you're in the doctor's office talking medical stuff, I don't think anyone speaks enough of another language for that. And thankfully, I got my travel insurance on the phone and they found a translator and they did everything for me. So it's more than just covering you financially. It's assisting you in so many other ways. So many other ways.
So moral of the story, get traveling. Even if you think you don't need it, you may not. I hope you don't. But the one time you do, you will be very thankful that you have it.
Oh, yeah.
A couple other things just for your own general health. It's okay to rest. You do not always have to be on the go. And people have this misconception when traveling. I have to see as much as possible. I have to do everything that I can. It's okay.
Yeah. If you're exhausted, you're not going to enjoy it.
Right. And you're going to make yourself sick.
Rest.
Furthermore. Yeah.
Rest.
When I was in Puerto Rico, I actually was in Puerto Rico in June during the time I was supposed to be in Greece. Mm-hmm. And I booked the trip to Puerto Rico last minute to go to my friend's wedding because my trip at the time was postponed. And I was like, oh, good. Now I can go to your wedding. Stayed up all night to drive to New York City. Didn't sleep on the plane. I think I went at that point. I think I was 48 hours without sleep at that point, and I was a little delirious. So I woke up the next morning and still was tired. And I took a nap. And I didn't feel guilty about, oh, I'm on vacation. I shouldn't be taking a nap. I took a nap. And I felt much better after the nap than I did before the nap. And had I not taken the nap, I would have not enjoyed my day. So it's okay.
100%. I am a big fan of a vacation nap. Big fan. Another thing that you absolutely should do while you're traveling is take vitamins. Mm-hmm. Take a multivitamin. Yep. Your body is going through so much with jet lag and unfamiliarity, and your senses are all overwhelmed. The smallest thing you can do for yourself is just take a daily multivitamin. If a multivitamin's not for you, that's fine. Drink a glass of orange juice, get some vitamin C.
And take your regular medicine too. Make sure you bring them in your carry-on or in your purse or a bag so that they don't get lost. Don't forget, it's easy to forget, to be distracted. Make sure you take all of your normal medications that you're on as well.
And before you leave, if you are going to be in a different time zone, go ahead and schedule calendar alerts on your phone for every day in your normal time zone, reminding you to take your medication, as some medications need to be taken at the same time every day. Don't forget, a lot of us think because we're going on vacation, our mental health is just suddenly going to be great and wonderful and awesome. That's a lie. You don't just magically get better. Take your mental health medications as well, and take time for your mental health while you are traveling. I know we have some excellent articles on the Her Adventures website about traveling with some mental health issues. I know Devin has written an incredible article about how she handles her anxiety while traveling, in addition to taking her medicine. take your medicine, guys.
Take your medicine. Another couple of things, I'm a big proponent of I'm on vacation mindset, but there are certain things that we cannot take a vacation from. Practicing safe sex is one of them. And we're not gonna preach. I'm not gonna sit here and preach to anybody, but you should take all of the same precautions abroad that you would take at home. That's all.
And don't assume that abroad is going to have those precautions for you, especially if you're a member of the LGBT community, as a lot of places are not LGBT friendly. And that's something you should definitely research before going on your trip.
And make sure you eat well too. I mean, again, we're on vacation. I get it. Calories don't count on vacation. But if you eat like crap, you might feel like crap. Like my family and I once went to Disney World. And we weren't eating horribly, but we were eating out every day. And I remember after like 3 or 4 days, I was like, I just want something home. I want my mom to cook something. Like you do get sick of the fun of eating out all the time at restaurants.
One of my favorite things to do when I solo travel, especially that has to do with food, I love finding open air markets and just trying local fruits and vegetable. And I will make that a meal in and of itself one day, especially if I've been going a little heavy on the cheese and bread, because I love cheese and bread. I'll take a break the next day and find some really good fruits and veg to get in my body.
And listen to your body. If your body wants more cheese and bread, by all means,
do cheese and bread.
More cheese and bread. But if your body's like, okay, Katie Beth, lay off here a little bit, have some fruit, have a piece of fruit.
Oh my gosh. And for the love of all that is good in this world, y'all, drink water. Drink water.
Yep.
And if water maybe isn't the cleanest in wherever you're at, bottled water is an option, or take something like a Life Straw or a water bottle that has a built-in filter. You need water. Drink water. Even if you're living it up, drinking wine every night, that's great. Still drink water too.
All right. So now that we have picked our destination and we know what to do to keep ourselves healthy while we're there, solo travel doesn't just mean I'm by myself, I'm isolated.
No.
Make friends. And I know that's easier. Oh, just go out and make friends. Easier said than done, but we're going to tell you some tips.
Yeah. Some of my closest friends I've met while solo traveling. So definitely don't think that traveling solo means I'm alone all of the time, like Carly said. Put yourself in situations where you will be interacting with others. Put yourself in those social settings. You can join Facebook groups like Her Adventures. If you're not a member, you should go smash that join button, answer the questions, be a part of our little awesome community. Facebook groups are a great place. You can post where you're going. And a lot of the time, especially in our group, people who live in that destination will offer to meet you for a drink or coffee or a meal or going to the museum. You know, you can do those things. If you are in our Her Adventures community and you want to host a meetup in a destination, that's something that can be coordinated. And you can have a whole group of people who have like-minded ideas as you. Those are options. I also really like using like meetup websites. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's this website. I linked it in the solo travel workbook. That's just group meetups in individual cities. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what it's called, but if you think of it, just message me or Sophia.
We'll plug it somewhere.
We'll put it. Yeah, we'll include it somewhere.
I just not working today.
It's okay. Me neither. It's Sunday.
It's fine. I've only had 1 cup of coffee.
I thought you were only going to say I've only had 1 glass of wine. That's what
girl, I wish. It is weekend time, but no, we'll save that for after 5 p.m.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, here I am. It's afternoon. Go ahead.
Another thing that you can do, and that I love doing when I solo travel, especially as a younger person, is staying in hostels. I say younger person because, I mean, you know, I'm not super young and I'm already kind of getting over the idea of sleeping in a room with 12 other strangers. I like my privacy. And I feel like that's something that older people especially enjoy. But staying in hostels is a great idea. You're going to be able to meet other solo travel people, and they're going to have events. that are planned for people in the hostel that you can join for very, very cheap. Things like bar crawls or surfing trips or walking tours. And sometimes these things are free. You just give your guide a tip. And they're done by language. So you'll be able to meet people who speak the same language as you and who are kind of having the same trip as you. And you can make some friends that way. When I was in Portugal, in Porto, I stayed in a hostel. And the first thing I did was I went on a free walking tour with my hostel a couple hours after I arrived. And on that walking tour, I ended up meeting 5 different people that I spent the next 5 days with. And it was incredible. We did wine tastings. We did a bar crawl. We even did a stand-up paddleboard tour. You know, I was there solo. I had the flexibility to do whatever I wanted. It wasn't like I was tied to these people, but I did have that outlet where these are a group of people I can do things with. Even if you're not staying in a hostel, sometimes they will let people outside of the hostel sign up for those events and stuff for a slightly larger fee, like maybe $1 or $2 more, you know? If hostels aren't your thing, another option is doing group travel trips. Things like, hey, you book a spot on a group trip. Maybe you're the only person that you know booking a spot on that group trip, but when you get there, you're with other people, you're doing the same things. It's typically planned for you, so that saves some hassle on the planning side. And you're going to be spending quite a bit of time with a group of people that you can become comfortable with. Group travel, I think, is an incredible idea, and it's something that I've done a whole lot of times, and I've only ever had one negative experience. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. You can do those group travel tours, and there are companies all over the internet that do that. Some of them do have age restrictions, so make sure that you are checking those things out. But I know with the pandemic, a lot of those age restrictions have been extended by up to 10 years. Mm-hmm. Like one company I know of used to max out, and I think it was like 32, but now they've extended all the way up to 40. So look at those age restrictions, and you can always talk with the companies as well about, hey, I'm interested in this. Do you have recommendations of similar companies that don't have an age restriction? And they will point you in the right direction.
Yeah. And group tours, I haven't been on one. I was supposed to go on one.
Yeah.
I didn't because of the pneumonia, you know, but yeah, it was nice because, you know, I felt like, okay, if I want to go off and do my own thing, which I personally am comfortable doing, and that's fine. But if I want to hang out with a group, here's the group, you know? So I liked having the option to do what I want by myself or do stuff with a whole group. But traveling with a group definitely can be overwhelming in its own sense, you know? So if you're listening to us and you're like, oh God, that sounds terrible. Why would somebody do that? That's okay. Try a day tour instead. Like Katie Beth mentioned, going with a hostel, even if you're not staying there or wherever you're going, you know, there's tons of tours around any destination in the world for a few hours or for half a day. Start by scheduling that.
Yeah. And some platforms that I love using for day trip group tours are Airbnb experiences, which are typically led by local guides. Airbnb has a number of problems, let's be real, but Airbnb experiences is a very solid option. I also really like using things like TripAdvisor and Expedia for finding those day tours. And with TripAdvisor, Expedia, and Airbnb experiences, just like with those hostels, you can book by language, which helps as well.
So there's always options. Solo travel doesn't mean that you're alone, isolated on your own little island, unless you want to be.
Yeah.
Because that sounds kind of nice sometimes.
I would love that more than anything at this moment.
That's why I'm going to Bermuda. Like I want to go somewhere for 5 days where everybody leaves me alone.
That's
sit on the beach and read a book. Nobody talk to me. That's what I want for this trip. That's what I want.
Yeah.
So finally, now we have, now we've got some new friends. So a lot of people are like, okay, if you are solo, how do you take good pictures? How do you get good photos of yourself?
We are traveling, and we very much live in a social media fueled world. That is not a bad thing, no matter how much some people try to say it is. And sometimes you want to have those pictures and those memories to put in a scrapbook. Sometimes you want to brag about how cool your life is on the gram. You do you, dude. You do you. But taking pictures by yourself can be a little bit tricky. And so I worked with our other teammate, Elizabeth, to come up with a great list of some ways to take pictures while traveling solo. Before you ever take a picture, you should always consider a couple things. Is it allowed? First of all, some destinations do not allow photography. If there are signs posted that say no pictures, or if anyone comes up to you and says, hey, please don't take pictures here, guess what? Don't take them. Don't be that person. Don't be a jerk. Just don't do it. One of the most famous places in the whole world that doesn't allow pictures is the Sistine Chapel. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great example. Just don't do it. Don't take pictures. Okay. The next thing you should consider is it safe? Are you going to be standing somewhere, or are you going to be putting your phone somewhere that makes it to where you can be injured or your phone can be stolen? Like, don't stand in the middle of a road just to take a cool pic because it gives you the best light.
Or hang off of a mountain.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Don't. People die taking selfies.
Yeah. Don't dangle. Don't do anything that's going to put you at risk. If you have to climb a fence, it's a no for me. You know, the next thing is consider, is it respectful? Is this picture something that you're taking that maybe is not cool to do? That's kind of a weird way of phrasing it, but the first thing that comes to mind when I think of, is it respectful? Am I taking pictures of someone else or some item that they wouldn't want shared on the internet? Mm-hmm. If you are in a religious place, don't take pictures of people. Mm-hmm. Just don't do it. Religion is a very private time for most. Don't take pictures just so you can show off how cool and exotic your trip was. That's not cool. Okay. Another thing is it respectful? Some countries don't believe in posing with statues and artwork in any way other than standing with your arms to the side and a smile. If you're in one of those countries, you will know it, because if you go to take one of those pictures, an attendant or someone will walk over to you and tell you to stop. Once you've learned that it's not cool to do that, don't try to do it again. Just don't. I am a proud member of a sorority, and, you know, sorority girls, we love throwing what we know, the little hand signs, whatever. It's something that we do. It's kind of culty, but it's something that we do. And I learned when I was in Greece, you absolutely, under no circumstances, throw what you know when posing with ancient statues, because you will get yelled at and they will be mad. And finally, is it mindful? What is the point of taking this picture? Are you going to put it on the internet and be like, look at how dirty and gross this place is? Is that kind? Like, don't do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Once you've checked, is it allowed? Is it safe? Is it respectful? And is it mindful? If your answers to all of those are yes,
Let's take some pictures.
Time to get your pics on. I am a huge fan of the selfie stick.
Yep. I was just going to say.
Huge fan.
No shame in my game with the selfie stick.
I love taking a selfie stick, especially when I'm doing walking tours of cities by myself. The selfie stick, 10 out of 10, love it. It compacts to where you can put it in a bag, whatever. Just know that if you are going to rely on a selfie stick or some sort of tripod situation, you very likely will not be allowed to take it in some more popular tourist sites.
Because they're so condensed. I've been hit with one actually before. Somebody swung it around and I was like,
people aren't mindful of where they're swinging their sticks. Yes. Like, just don't do it. If you try to take a selfie stick into Disney World, they will throw it away.
I'm sure. I haven't been to Disney World since before the selfie stick was a thing, but that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And a lot of museums and stuff will not allow selfie sticks. If it's in your bag, they will either throw it away or they will check it for you to pick up on your way out. Yeah. So if you are going to like a more popular tourist destination, the internet is free. It is typically in their what is allowed and what is not allowed page on their website. It's worth checking. Leave the selfie stick at your hotel if so. Another great way that you can get pictures is to use the self timer on your camera. If you wanted to set your phone up somewhere safe,
Yeah.
and you wanted to do that self timer while you go and pose around, do it. If you do use something like a tripod, a lot of them have clickable,
like a
handheld
Bluetooth thing.
picture clicky things. I don't know what the real name of those is. I'm obviously not a photographer.
Me either.
But you can use those. And I also, what I do personally more often than not, I will set my phone up somewhere, and instead of using the self timer, I will turn on a video and I will go dance around and pose and do like a minute or so of what I want. And then I'll just save it. And when I get home that night, or when I get home from my trip later on down the road, I'll screenshot what I like off that video.
Genius.
Yeah. The photo quality goes down just a little bit, but it saves you time and hassle when you're in these cool places, you know?
That's such a good idea.
It works.
I've never thought of that before.
Yeah. And especially if you have like an iPhone, I don't know about Droids, but when you're on video, you can like click and pull the stills at the bottom. You can already see which ones you're going to like and which ones you're not. Live photos are another great option too. Another thing you can do, if you are in a place where you feel comfortable, you can ask someone to take a picture for you. One handy dandy trick that I use when I'm in tourist places specifically, I look for people who are trying and struggling to take pictures, and I offer to take a picture of them. And then typically I don't even have to ask. They'll offer to take one for me.
Yep.
And pro tip, if you really want to get into it, look for Gen Z girls.
They take the best pictures.
And I will never forget it. They will pose you. They will take 25 pictures minimum. They will help you with your hair. Look for young Gen Z women. They will hook you up with the best pictures. I don't know why that is, but they know how to do it.
They do. They take it very seriously.
And I love it. I have one of my favorite pictures I've ever gotten was taken. This girl took, I kid you not, 150 pictures of me in front of the magic fountains in Barcelona. And they're the coolest. She played around with like the lighting settings and everything. Wow. Yeah. Ask other people to help you take pictures. If you want to kind of get that more like artsy vibe going on in your pictures, there are group tours specifically for photography, or even solo tours specifically for photography on those platforms like Airbnb Experiences, Groupon, Expedia, Travel. I just lost my train of thought. What's the one with the owl? TripAdvisor. They have photography tours. You can either do them one-on-one with a local photographer and they will take pictures of you. You can do them as a group with a local photographer who will take pictures of you. Or you can bring your own camera and they will teach you how to take pictures or find the best places in the city where you can go and take pictures too. They're super fun. I did one of these. I am not a photographer at all. And the only thing I was equipped with was my cell phone camera. And I did one of these in Portugal and it was so much fun. It was so much fun. He had me like laying on the ground to get the right angles and everything. I felt so official.
Yeah, I always just use my iPhone. I at some point do want to get like a nicer camera, but honestly, like iPhone camera quality,
it was great.
Pretty good. Like, honestly.
Yeah. And I have a real camera, but a lot of the times when I do solo trips, I try to pack as little as possible because I backpack it.
Right.
I have to carry that crap.
You gotta carry it.
Cameras are heavy.
Yes, they are.
Another thing that you can do if you do want to get the best pics possible, find a class locally and take a photography class before you even leave for your trip. The place that I've found the most success with local photography classes, and this is hilarious, is the Senior Citizen Center. They are inexpensive. They are led by very skilled people. They are in most major cities. And I live in a small town and our retirement center, our Senior Citizen Center, does them every couple of months.
Wow.
Worth looking into.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go to the senior center, that's fine. Find other photography classes too. They are fun. I just know that that is a resource that I have used, and I have had some great times with some elderly ladies in these photography classes. And the most important thing when it comes to taking your pictures on your trip is just whatever you're doing, have fun with it, especially if you're going to be in the frame. It's very easy to tell the difference between a posed picture and a genuine happy shot. You know what I mean? If you're not feeling your look that day, if you feel cruddy, if you don't think you're going to feel pretty in a picture, maybe don't make yourself the focus of that shot that day. Take pictures of your surroundings instead. If you do want to get a little loosey-goosey and do the video thing, dance around. I'm not kidding. Like, dance around. Force yourself to laugh, like ha 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 ha, until it becomes a genuine
until you're
laugh.
actually laughing. Yep.
It works like a charm. Have fun with yourself and you will have good pictures. Trust me.
So if after all of this, you're still on the fence, that's understandable. I get it. Solo travel is something that's very daunting. You can check out Katie Beth's solo travel workbook. Again, we'll put the link to that in the episode description. But we both of us have solo traveled before, we're going to just each offer you one little tidbit of advice. So my advice is very short and simple. Just go. Honestly, like, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay to be hesitant, you know, but I am very firmly in the camp of like, I would rather do this and experience it than wish I had done it.
Oh, I fully agree.
So my advice always is just go. Figure it out, be responsible, do your research, do whatever makes you comfortable, but go.
Just do it.
Yep.
My advice is to know yourself. I think a big part of solo travel and the fears surrounding it are because people don't think they know themselves very well, but you can use these experiences to know yourself. I've learned more about myself from spending time alone in weird places than I have, you know, hanging out with my friends wherever I go. Solo travel helps you know yourself. And once you know yourself, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable in your skin. Just do it. YOLO.
Perfect. Katie Beth, if any of our listeners want to find you on social media and follow your travels, where can they do that?
I am on social media as @HerLifeInRuins. So I'm an archaeologist. It's kind of a pun. Love it. You can find me there. And you can also pick up a copy of my solo travel workbook from Her Adventures. Hopefully this winter. It should be out.
That's all for this episode. If you'd like more Away She Goes in your life, make sure to stop by heradventures.com/podcast. That's where you can fill out a form if you're interested in being a guest on the show. And you can also write to us at awayshegosgwt@gmail.com or leave us a message on our Google voicemail from any phone or computer at 1-563-503-6323. To follow our adventures, you can follow me on Instagram at Carly Sees the World. Carly is spelled Carli.
You can also follow me at Sophia AEZ. Sophia is spelled Sophia. Away She Goes is part of Her Adventures, a community dedicated to radically redefining travel to be inclusive, sustainable, and empowering. You can learn more about Her Adventures, find travel tips and support, shop travel-themed items made by our members, and join our Facebook group with nearly 100,000 women all around the world. All at heradventures.com. We can't wait to connect and explore with you. Away she goes.